Have you ever been in an organization that when something goes wrong, maybe it's that a release is not going to be made, or that we suddenly see that the plans that we have been building, they have not been moving forward, but there's this person that usually can come and save the day. They can come, be the hero, be the firefighter who is going to go around the organization, pulling on the strings, making sure that everybody gets the things done. There is a very big problem with this model. Yes, this person might be a hero, they might be really resourceful, they might be great at doing their job. The problem is that one person doesn't scale. When you are having a product manager that is really good and you are relying too heavily on their work, that means that what are the other product managers are doing? Who else is taking responsibility and accountability in your organization? The reality is that probably there's not much of it. In the end, this hero, this firefighter is a bottleneck for your organization. And when you have somebody like this, they might also get burnout and start looking for alternatives and maybe other opportunities in other places. So to be in a strategic organization, you cannot just rely on these firefighter figures, on these hero figures. You really had to build a system that is going to allow your teams, all of the people in the teams, to success and to bring value to the organization. So when working with different organizations over years, I built a model, a maturity model of how companies can move from being reactive to being more strategic. And that's what I want to talk about today. This model has 5 steps. And in each of these steps, we start from the bottom, the ones that are more reactive, and we end up in the more strategic ones. So let's go one by one. The first one, which is the reactive, as you can imagine, this is the one where the war happens basically because there are some needs and requests and the team just jumps on them. There's a request, this gets prioritized, everybody goes and starts doing whatever they had to do regarding this request. It might be that you had to just go to a meeting, it might be that you had to change your roadmap. In the end, when you are operating like this, basically there is pretty much no system, and what you are relying is on the competence of certain individuals, the firefighters, the heroes, however you want to call it. And the problem is that the outcomes are going to be unpredictable, mainly because relying on an individual is never going to be very reliable, because this individual, for whatever reason, might be working in another project that is also very critical. What happens then? Which project is going to fall behind? And of course, having somebody like this, it can lead to burnouts and stuff like that, which obviously you don't want to have. The problem with being so reactive is that the companies are going to be burning probably and wasting a lot of money because there's little focus. There's no alignment towards a strategy. Everything is reactive. It's very difficult that when you are shooting in many different directions, going after many different targets, you are going to really have a very good focus and understanding of how you are going to grow or bring opportunities that really bring value to the business. The second step of this maturity model are companies that start to have an occasional model, occasional system. So here, there might be some good practices. Maybe they have a good way to release the product. When you think about good practices, companies tend to be good or better at delivery than they tend to be good at discovery. Rarely companies are going to be very good at discovery and bad at delivery. There might be those ones as well, but that's usually not the case. Companies tend to focus very much on the output, on delivering features, releasing new versions, getting projects done, ticking boxes, but not really bringing value and impact to the business, which should be the focus for companies or teams that are working for profit organizations. In this case, in this second stage, there might be some good, as I said, practices usually around delivery, usually around, hey, maybe the quality of the product that we are delivering is quite good. Thinking about the software quality, we might be quite good at doing automated testing, at doing analysis of the code, so on. And that part might be quite reliable. But still, there's not going to be a good system that allows teams to really go from discovery all the way to delivery with all the stages that are in between, that has a system that aligns, that helps teams align and really make sure that they are looking for that growth, for that business impact that they should be aiming after. Now, the third stage is going to be the structured practice. Here, teams start to be more organized. They start to have some system. In many companies, this is going to be something like SAFe. So there are practices, there are processes that are defined, that are being followed by the teams. The work starts to be more predictable, repeatable, and less depending on individuals. Achieving this stage is probably going to be the hardest, because in an occasional process, or when you have occasional practices or an occasional system, teams are just winging it. Still, they have a little bit more processes in the way that maybe they use RISE to prioritize. Maybe they use, as I was saying earlier, something like quality assurance. But the problem is that they're still not having a very clear process. And when teams are winging it and you introduce a system, this is probably the difficult part, because culturally, they are not used to have a process. And then suddenly you're asking for them to have a process, which usually can lead to some level of pushback from the teams. So culturally, you had to really make sure that you explain very well why this is being done. And sometimes it's better to start introducing changes little by little than doing this massive change that everybody is like, well, now we get the new system and now everybody has to move to it, which usually gives or gets people to have quite a bit of pushback. In any case, in this structured practice, SAFe, as I was saying, is an example. You might be using things like RISE to do your scoring, to try to help you prioritize. You might be using something like Moscow to maybe face a project in different phases, obviously, and so on. So you have already some level of a system at this point. And this is actually a good starting point for many organizations. And to be frank, there's not that many organizations that are in this structured practice. Now, the next one, and here, this is not necessarily the most difficult step, but here's where many companies start failing. The next one that I see is cross-team integration. Yes, you might have a structured practice, but alignment then across teams is just done by meetings. When you have a cross-team integrations, here you start to have aligned practices and coordinated work across teams and functions. And I'm not talking just about product and R&D that usually in a structured practice, they start to already be relatively well aligned. I'm also thinking about sales, marketing, legal, data, services, support, solution engineers, whichever are other teams that are involved in the success of the product. Here, dependencies between the teams are proactively managed, and the teams work from the very early stages together. They work from the planning stage all the way to the delivery, support, and so on, and service, and so on. But they also are aiming towards shared outcomes. And this is a very, very big difference from the structured practice. Think about this. In many organizations, sales is going to have a goal, which might be increase the number of customers or new customers by X%, or increase or enter a certain market. But product is going to have other goals. In a cross-team integration, those goals start to be aligned. They start to go for the same goals. And this is a very, very big difference from the structured practice, where there might be a system to get things done, but where goals are not aligned. And finally, there's the fifth stage. And I think that this is the one that really changes how company works. Because here, there is a very clear strategy, a very clear price strategy, a very clear company strategy that is helping the team and all the teams to really start aligning their processes, the ways of working, the decisions they are making to achieve long-term goals. So here you are basically building a strategy and building a vision for the teams. And those strategies are really helping the teams making decisions on how they are going to go into certain market. And from there, once they have that clear strategy, whichever it is, we are going to provide this value proposition, this value for this specific customer segment or industry in these market areas for companies that are of this size. From there, teams can start prioritize their work to support those strategic goals. And then you can see how these goals are being achieved by introducing metrics like KPIs, which can be already in the cross-team integration. So when you're building a system, what you have to think is, how am I going to build a system that first helps teams make decisions and see how they can find those opportunities that are going to contribute to those different strategic goals that I have set. That's the vertical alignment. Then you have the horizontal alignment, which is how those teams are going to work together and make sure that they are actually going for the same success. They are going for the same goals. So success is defined the same way, they go for the same goals. And how they can have a system that brings operational maturity, pro-operational maturity to the ways of working. So they are able to do proper discovery, they are able to do proper prioritization, they are able to do proper delivery and execution, planning, road mapping, whatnot. So having great individuals is great. Don't get me wrong. I know that I talk about the hero and the firefighter, and of course it sounds a little bit dismissive. I don't dislike those people. I like to think that at some point I have been one of those persons in the organization. I know other teammates of mine that have also had that profile. But in the end, when you are this person that kind of is easy to identify by the rest of the teams because you are going to get the things done, that's also highlighting that the organization doesn't have a good way to get the teams to get things done. So it is great to have these people. Don't get me wrong. It's better to have these people than don't have anybody. That's also true. And it's great to have these people when you have teams that really can make decisions, because these people can grow, can evolve in their careers, can become very senior experts, can become in the future leaders, whatnot, depends on whatever is their interest, but there are people that can grow and that they can develop within the organization that is supporting the success of teams. When you don't have that system, these people also might as well leave your organization because the team, the company, the system that you have in the company is not supporting success. It's not supporting excellence in the company. So if you are interested in understanding which stage you are, I created an assessment that you can go and take right now. It's going to take you probably less than 10 minutes to do. You can just fill it out and see how do you stack and how do you compare to other organizations out there. So in which stage do you think you are at this point? Do you think that you are in a reactive, in an occasional, in a structured practice? Do you think that you have a great cross-functional alignment already, or you are fully strategically aligned as an organization? Please let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos about how product leaders should be and how they can be more strategic in their decisions and ways of working. See you in the next one.